Hello and welcome to Setting the Stage, episode 63, John and Dalteria. This episode focuses on John's upcoming game and system Dalteria, which is about magic, technology, biblical stories, and the abuses of weapons in war and how they can cause problems that affect the whole world. So, sit back, listen, and enjoy. I'm here today with John, and he's going to talk to us about Dalteria. Hi, John.
Hello.
But, usual before we get into the RPG stuff, I want to hear who you are outside of RPGs.
Let's see. I work security at an airport, hang out with my friends, play games. Dalteria is taking over a lot right now, just developing a whole RPG systems. Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense given the Discord that we found each other in. It's a heavy space.
Got started in this whole thing because a friend of mine was watching Extra Credits and saw their episode on making a board game and wanted us to get started on that. And this is kind of a side project that I decided to make into a full project.
I'm not familiar with that show, Extra Credits.
They do short things on video games. Used to watch them back in the day.
Okay. They're like a YouTube show?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like they said, one way to get in video games is make a board game, give it to your friends, see if they can follow the rules and play it the way you intended.
Yeah, kind of like analog programming, sort of.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's kind of like it's sort of working backwards now. There's some video games that start developing board games to play them.
I've seen a few of those.
What got you started in RPGs?
Actually, hanging out on these Something Awful forums. I had grown up in I'm an independent Baptist, and D&D didn't exactly have the best reputation with us. And Online, I saw a Let's Play D&D, and so I thought, what? I just want to find out what this is for myself. So I started watching them, and it was just a bunch of people hanging out and making up nonsense together, and it seemed like a lot of fun.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then a friend of mine was getting in a campaign, and I kind of weaseled my way into it.
Okay, cool. And you've been hooked ever since, or did you take a break at some point?
In and out, it's hard to find a regular group.
Yeah.
But when I get a chance to play, I do.
You were a player initially, and when did you switch to DMing?
When I wanted to play Sentinels of the Multiverse RPG, and I was the only person who knew really anything about it, so if I wanted to play, I'd around. Also, like, our GM was, in my first campaign, it was like, if anybody wants to run anything, if anybody has an idea for an adventure, just you can take over for a short time, and I did run just one adventure through that, and a couple here and there.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about you starting with the Sentinel RPG, as it's one I hadn't even heard of before you mentioned it. What is that one like?
It's a superhero role-playing game. It's very open to creating your own characters. It's built around a specific universe, the Sentinel Comics universe that was created for a board game. There's no actual comics. Was a podcast for it. It's a very good structure for building a character that can make pretty much whatever you want.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of superhero ones are like that, where you can kind of make whatever you want, and it's trying to keep them all sort of together in the same place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, different people, different power levels, but you're all still accomplishing basically the same thing. Which is how things do work in comics a lot of the times.
Yeah, and the movies too. Like Black Widow is much less powerful compared to Hulk and Thor, like combat-wise, but she still is relevant in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you started DMing using Sentinel, or were you using something else when you started?
That was the first thing I ran that was longer than like a single session. The first few things I ran were in 4th edition D&D. Run a little bit of 13th Age.
Okay. Those are both good ones. All right. You're trying to design your own system now, right?
Yes. System and setting kind of built together.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that. They're both called Dalteria, right?
Yes. That's the name of the planet where the story takes place.
All right. And I don't know much about the system. Do you think it would make sense to talk about that first, or go to the setting first?
Go with a little of both. For mechanics side of things, it's a classless system. You are playing adventurers, and you're either using magic or advanced technology to go out into the wilds of Dalteria and do what needs doing. I like to describe the system as a post-apocalyptic. They had their world-destroying battle, and then started coming back from it. Then there was a war with the people of Hephaestus, which is how the advanced technology came there. That world was destroyed. But that was about 400 years before the game is taking place, and things have somewhat settled. You got cities and towns that are relatively safe, but everything outside of them is full of, well, monsters and mad scientists and mad mages and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you could argue that like Europe is kind of like that now, because like the Roman Empire was like pre-apocalypse, and then the Roman Empire fell, and then there was just sort of chaos for a few centuries, and now it's finally past that chaos and is back to being sort of a nice peaceful whole after World War II.
But a lot of what the adventurers would have to deal with is a fallout from the last war.
Yeah, so they're still dealing with the problems from that.
Yeah, actually, let me explain the two worlds that used to exist. It was a binary star system. They're very far apart from each other, but close enough that you don't need faster than light travel to get between the two planets.
Mm. So like Earth and Mars, or like Earth and the Moon?
More like Earth and Mars. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even farther away. But Dalteria is a planet that is capable of supporting life, but did not have any life on it originally. Then, thousands and thousands of years ago, in Earth's past, shortly after the flood, when the Tower of Babel was being built, the keeper of the source of magic saw this and was like, no, I don't want any part of this. We're leaving. He took a group of people, took away magic from everyone else, gave it to these handful of people. Well, not him. I say handful. The 5,500 rule. They had enough people to establish a new society.
Okay.
Left, came to Dalteria, and they basically terraformed this planet with magic. So you have Dalteria. Thousands of years of history. It's been around almost as long as the Earth. And people living there, civilizations rising and falling. You go thousands of years in our future on Earth where magic died out. Magical creatures faded away, died out, or just became mundane creatures. Magical items stopped working. No one could cast spells anymore. So Earth progressed just like it did here. And then into a distant future where they started sending out seed ships to colonize other planets. They discovered Hephaestus and Dalteria. But because there's magic on Dalteria and that interferes with the technology's functioning, the probe landed on the wrong planet, landed on Hephaestus, which could not support life except in this one small plateau. So when the people of Hephaestus landed there, they just basically built a dome city there because that's all they had room for. They didn't start their terraforming equipment and started looking for a way to expand. They found Dalteria. Dalteria had just survived a terrible mage war. The entire atmosphere was poisoned.
Oof.
And because of this, most of the mundane animals are gone. Very few people survived. The people who had access to magic were able to stay alive because of the war. The source of magic was locked away. No one had access to higher level magic, so only the basic, simple things, which fortunately, breath is a low level spell that lets you breathe the atmosphere.
Good.
So people near healing mages could survive. But here's the thing. The terraforming equipment was perfectly fine for scrubbing the atmosphere. People from Hephaestus, they actually didn't land on parts of Dalteria that were currently occupied. A lot of the cities had been abandoned. A lot of areas were just empty. And they thought that this was a dead world. And They cleaned the atmosphere, accidentally broke the lock on the key to magic during their exploration. I'm not going to go through the whole history. I'm trying to speed this up a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But that's when you ended up with one group of people saying, well, this is our planet. We grew up here. We lived here. This is our world. Another group of people saying, it was a dead world and we made it livable again. We want a piece of it. And that led to the war between magic and tech. And that war ended with Hephaestus being completely destroyed by a rogue chaos mage. The survivors from that planet, it wasn't like an instant thing. It was, he set something up and they had a small amount of time to try to evacuate, and a few people were able to. And they did bring the siege ship back, which was largely unused.
Frieza giving them 5 minutes to get off the world.
Yeah, something like an hour, but yeah. Yeah, basically that.
All right, not the specific time isn't important.
But yeah. He had basically annihilated the core of the planet so that it would blow up, like converted matter to antimatter effectively. Chaos magic can do some crazy stuff, and is limited in the main game, which is one of the things. But so survivors land on Dalteria. The people of Dalteria are horrified at what happened. This guy was not officially sent out there. He did this on his own. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The people of Hephaestus are demoralized completely. Almost the entire civilian population is gone. Their civilization is largely destroyed. They were given land to build. Like the places on Dalteria where the magic influence was the weakest was given to the people of Hephaestus to build their cities and to build up. And like I said, that happened 400 years before the current storyline. You have these giant tech cities, 7 of them across the planet. Sort of 8, because there's one that's built between 2 continents, connected by a gateway that's maintained. One of the only tech gateways that can function. And then you have a bunch of smaller towns and cities, because magic, you can create a magical barrier, you can create a ward around a smaller encampment. For the tech city to survive on Dalteria, they have to have giant walls with like automated turrets and such to keep the dangerous things out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you've got these 2 civilizations. They have to work together. They have to function together in order to make this world work. Because, like I said, it's full of dangerous magical creatures. Magical creatures were supposed to be rare, but now they're the norm instead of this is the special and few and far between. There's still leftovers from the war. During the war, Hephaestus dropped a nanomachine factories onto Dalteria that would create war machines. And because technology and magic don't get along, they're malfunctioning. Some of them are still cranking out robots, and these machines will they won't follow their programming. Some of them might join a pack of animals and defend it.
Yeah, that's a funny. There's that robot movie that came out recently, The Wild Robot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that interaction is interesting.
But yeah, so from the mechanics side, this means I've got 2 primary types of characters that you have to work side by side and work with the same mechanics, but still be feeling different enough that they're their own thing. Like if you want to play a mage, you've got your MP that slowly regenerates over time. You get a little bit back every round.
You gave a whole bunch on the setting that I want to explore before we get into the system. So go ahead. I have so many questions that I've just been saving until you got through what you were talking about.
All right. Cool. Any questions?
So first bit, you mentioned that the mages split off from the Tower of Babel, which would indicate that within your universe that the Abrahamic religion is true. Or are we talking about the historical Tower of Babel instead?
Yes. From my system, religion doesn't have a mechanical bit, but yes, I take that Christianity, Abrahamic religion, those things happened as far as their historical events in this world.
Okay. Well, a follow-up question to that, would that also indicate that religion, the Abrahamic religions are restrained to Earth, and that God doesn't care about Dalteria and Hephaestus because it's not part of his domain exactly?
No, and that's an interesting thing about Dalterian culture. The confusion of the languages still affected Dalteria.
Okay.
But the thing is, they did what they were supposed to do. They spread out and multiplied. But since they had the source of magic with them, the confusion of languages didn't really affect them. There's a spell called Voice. Everyone is given that. Everyone was just given that. They were powerful knowledge mages, and this lets you understand what anyone says to you as long as you're physically present. This leads to an interesting in Dalteria. Until the people of Hephaestus came there was no written languages, and there was no common languages. Everyone basically spoke a language of their own devising, and since everyone had the voice, everyone understood. To transfer information and such, they used magic. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just that's so funny, like thinking like someone comes along and there are an entire, planet of people that are essentially talking to each other with baby voice because they never learned like a real language, and they're just sort of speaking in through a translator that translates their thoughts more than their actual speech. It's just very funny.
Or you walk into a room and everybody's just speaking a completely different language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With the coming of the people of Hephaestus, they brought languages and culture from Earth. They brought the religion and faith with them. Okay.
But I feel like the languages and culture came about after the tower fell.
Yeah.
That's been my interpretation. So they would have been a monoculture because they left before that, right?
Yes, they were largely a monoculture, yes.
Okay, so did you say that the people from Earth brought a bunch of cultures when they came later on?
Yes. Yeah, the people on the siege ship were as representative of the people on Earth as possible when they were sent out.
Okay. So then Hephaestus, the planet that they ended up settling on by accident, you mentioned that like there was only a tiny habitable region. It was just like a sort of bubble that they built on the surface. Is that the idea?
There was a plateau that was in a zone that was habitable. The rest of the planet was largely uninhabitable, and there's tons of volcanic activity, thus the name. And yeah, they decided there's no way that they could terraform the planet, so they just built a bubble city.
Okay. Compared to Dalteria, where we just have to clean the atmosphere instead of trying to reduce planet-wide volcanic activity.
Yes.
Next question is about where magic comes from. Because my interpretation, well, I suppose this is me reading into what American Christians have represented for witchcraft coming from the devil for magic, and that being a bad thing. It feels like magic within the Bible is always portrayed as something evil and outside of God. So like Moses is not using magic. He's practicing miracles, but like the Egyptian sorcerers that he fights with the snake are using magic, and they're evil, and their magic is evil, and his magic isn't even called magic, it's called miracles. Where's your separation for that within the setting?
So within the setting, magic was a thing given to man early on. When it was removed from the earth, people, like what you're talking about, would be considered to be sorcerer, getting power from all magic from the position of the Bible is supernatural. It's actions of angels, demons, or God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not something I handle mechanically in my game. The magic was a natural source of power that's separate and its own thing. Because it was removed from Earth, it doesn't come into play. The Bible doesn't cover that sort of thing because it wasn't on Earth anymore.
Right, because the Tower of Babel is like in Genesis, isn't it? I forget when that. Yeah, so there isn't much before that would matter. Okay. All right, so this is something that exists outside of my conception of the Bible because it's not in there. Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you.
So magic There is a thing called the source of magic. It is a crystal sphere that a person can hold or like wear as a pendant or something on their person. If that source of magic is on a planet, that entire world is affected by it. The keeper of the source of magic is aware of magic and its general flow and use across the world. The keeper cannot themselves use magic, but they can grant it or take it away from others.
And someone does have to wear it. You can't just like put it around a wolf's neck or something.
It just has to exist to function. If a person is holding it, they can interact with it. But it has to be a person, yes.
To grant magic to someone, you have to hold it, and therefore you can't get magic.
Yes. The only thing it gives you is a longer life and the ability to sense magic's use across the world.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be specifically like the keeper magic doesn't have to say you get magic, you get magic, you get magic. They can, like the keepers, the people under him could have like a group of people here and they let him know that these people here should be granted access to magic or granted access to more powerful magic, and he could activate
or every
that.
Third daughter and fourth son gets magic or something like that.
So you can be born with access to magic if one of your ancestors had access. If both of your parents did, it's pretty much guaranteed. Mm-hmm. But that's just the base level, simple, basic spells. To get anything beyond that, you would have to be granted it from the keepers or from the keeper of magic himself, depending on how much power you're getting.
Okay. I was just trying to conceive of a way you can sort of like, these people get a little bit of magic and how you could sort of say not all of them, but just some of them.
Well, like you would have an assembly. Like everyone in this room is going to be granted power. You have a knowledge mage there who projects that information directly to the keeper, and he would use them as a conduit to give these people power.
Okay. So before you mentioned that like all magic in the Bible is generally coming from God and angels, but I feel like there is some that is coming from
in demons,
at least within the Old Testament, from other deities that would be conceived of as demons and devils within the Abrahamic, within the Christian conception. I'm not sure they were conceived that way within the Jewish tradition. Is that something that still shows up in your setting or no?
I tend not to handle the supernatural or from the religious standpoint in the game mechanically.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say miracles don't happen, but I'm not going to give you rules for it.
Okay. That's fair enough. We don't really have rules for them in the real world either. Along with that, I did have a question about like how religion and like clerics and priests interacted in your setting when it's based on reality. So it sounds like all of the Dalterians are still very connected to the original faith before, like I guess this is before Judaism even, from your setting of it. But the Earth people, I'm assuming, would have basically everything that's existed into the future.
And there's a few extra things, like the cult of Nimrod survived on Dalteria. Nimrod was the one who built the Tower of Babel. Mm-hmm. And there are people who still want to gain the power to overthrow God. They're generally going to be villains in the setting, although they can be useful as allies temporarily.
Name a setting where those types of people aren't villains.
And then there's the cult of Gaia. That's not what they call themselves, but the people who worship Earth and the concept of Earth, who either want to return to it or think that people on Dalteria are being cursed. I guess it's a very dangerous world. They think that by casting aside magic and advanced technology and living a simple life, that they can go back, or they believe that they should be using every bit of power that they can gain in order to get back to Earth.
Okay. There are still like cults and faiths in a way. It's just that they're all have a more grounded, like metaphysical idea of what the world is.
As far as the ones that I've built so far for the game, and yeah. Mm-hmm. Some of the interesting things are, it's like I said, that a person with an ancestry that had access to magic might be able to use magic. And I'll explain magic a little bit more in a second. This could mean that somebody in one of the tech cities could hit the point at which that they would develop magic in their own life and become a caster, which could cause problems or just be an extra value. Also, there are some people from Earth still on Dalteria. Because, like I said, the siege ship, because they had such little space, they didn't wake everybody up. And they tried to use that siege ship to get back to Dalteria. It crashed on arrival because they'd been using it. They'd been taking stuff off of it. They'd been scavenging it. They thought it could make the trip, but it didn't make. So somewhere on Dalteria are a bunch of people in temporal stasis that are from Earth.
Oh, that's cool.
A few scattered ones have woken up, and you could, if you want to play as one of them in the game, one that's not from the main pod that got broke off, that could be an interesting way to start a character.
Yeah, that's neat. Because magic is split off, and you're not trying to have any other magical systems, then there wouldn't be any magic associated with the other faiths of Earth that would have come along with the colonists. Is that right?
Yes. I don't put that in the game.
Gotcha.
So magic's kind of an interesting thing in that it develops differently depending on the person. Like, the Keeper of Magic can give someone magical power. They can't make them an elemental mage. They can't make them a healing mage. There's the 6 types of magic, and the types of magic you develop depend on your personality. So a person who is nurturing, healing, or the opposite, toxic, might develop healing magic, because healing magic can do one or the other. A person who is ruled by their emotions, either by their control of them or by letting the emotions control them, will get elemental magic. A person into visual arts would probably get psychic magic because that controls illusions. A person works with their hands would be manipulation magic, where you alter and change physical things. People connected to animals and plants would have natural magic.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and also you can have more than one type. One of the things that mechanics informs narrative is I don't want you spreading out too much. You only have 3 points to choose within your magic types. So people who are more types of magic than that, it dilutes to the point that they're not strong enough to be someone who would be an adventurer. They don't have enough power in magic.
That makes sense. Yeah. You mentioned that magic and technology don't get along, and I feel like that's something that has existed in pop culture for a long time. Like Harry Potter had it as a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was the Arcanum game. And they both handled it a little bit differently. The idea was that, like, when magic was around technology, when technology was around magic, then the technology starts to malfunction and do weird things. And when magic is around technology, it just kind of doesn't work very well. Like, it's harder to cast a spell. So you'd mentioned that there's an adversarial relationship there, and I wanted to learn more about it with those ideas in mind.
Yes, it works similarly. So magic bends reality, reshapes it slightly in order to work. Technology locks it down and makes it more solid. So yes, if you try and cast a spell in one of the big tech cities, it might go awry, not do what you intended it to do. If you try and use one of, like, your laser rifle in an area with too much magic influence, it might just blow up on you, and you have to repair it before you can use it again.
Okay, that was another one of my questions, was the tech level for even like this sort of crashed spaceship area. So they still have laser rifles and all the super tech stuff.
Yes, but they are somewhat limited. Like, there's no transportation is one of the worst things, because with magic influence varying across the planet, you can't really fly a ship across it because it's going to vary in how well it's going to work from place to place to place. They have teleportation technology, but it's like limited to very close site-to-site teleportation, or like you might have a machine that works once as an escape route.
And for magical teleportation, because I feel like that's another side to that coin.
Similarly, because of the tech influence on the planet, you're more limited to closer site-to-site teleportation. So yeah.
Okay. What about magical transports?
Generally, if you just want to go pure magic, you're probably going to use natural magic and get an animal or a beast to carry you from one place to another or to act as a beast of burden. That's the easiest way to do things because the more alive, the more intelligent a thing is, the less likely it is to be affected by the influence of tech or magic.
Okay.
You do have some small vehicles and such as well.
Okay, so usually you're going to get like a giant eagle to carry you around, not like a magic carpet.
Yes, you would. The two main continents, they use rocks to fly between the two of them.
Okay, perfect. It's basically a giant eagle.
Yeah. They're connected to the element of wind.
Of course they are.
That is one of the things in the game. I have creatures of magic that naturally occur because the source of magic is there, and then I have creatures of magic that exist because people use magic. That was something that helped me to build the game. It's like I need creatures to fill this game for people to interact with and fight and work alongside. And one of the things I have 6 types of magic. Why don't I create a type of creature that fits each one of them? And then these creatures exist because people use magic. Either directly like golems with manipulation magic, where people made them in the past. It's a largely lost magic. They're just starting to recover it. Like there's only one spell in the game that lets you make one.
Yeah, golems was one I was thinking of because those are mentioned in the Bible. So that's like that has to be something you've included.
Mm-hmm. And then there's others like elementals. It's just because people use elemental magic a lot. It's that energy is on the planet. So when like there's a volcanic eruption or a snowstorm, that elemental magic can be drawn by that event and create an elemental. Either just a basic creature that's basically just like a ball of whatever element it is that's held together by magic, or like a magma titan in the case of a volcano erupting. Actually a creature that walks around.
Yeah, a really big one. So the idea is that like this apocalypse where the atmosphere was poisoned, most of the wild animals that weren't like within the safe areas just died, except for the ones that were strong enough to survive because of some magic power that they had. Is that the idea?
Yes. So almost all the animals on the planet are affected by magic in some way. Most in small ways, some in more powerful ways. And that's actually also part of the mechanics, was to give me something to make it so that GMs can have. I don't have to design a million creatures. I designed a creature, and then I designed a bunch of augments. The augments add a level to the creature and give it access to one of the different types of magic. So you can have a wolf, or you can have a wolf that when it attacks with fire or ice or lightning.
So there was something you'd said earlier about like getting 3 different types of magic at most for players.
Yes.
So it seems like, is pretty much everyone on this planet have a connection to magic? I guess that's not quite true because you said like the keeper is controlling it, but it feels like everyone has some small thing they can do. Is that right or no?
Yes. Most of the native Dalterians, the people who live in the magic cities, will have some magic. You might not have enough to be an adventurer, but you'll be able to do some basic things.
Yeah, like maybe I have enough to like do my laundry, but that's all for my elemental magic.
You might even be able to cast a type spell. You might just have a couple of untyped spells, some basic things. But yes.
Okay, so there's still kind of like universal magic, like in D&D has for like stuff that's not part of each of the 6.
It's very limited, but I did include So I have a section of untyped spells, and they're only level 1. They're available to anybody to take. And one thing about my system is you can level up a spell or a piece of equipment all the way up to the max level is 20 if you want. So like you could take one of those, and that's your signature spell, and you keep it for the whole game.
That's cool.
Because the idea is that as a person becomes more skilled in magic, gains more access to it, the magic evolves and changes, and the person isn't actually controlling that. The magic is an expression of who you are. The player's controlling that, but not the character.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm interested in like the leadership and the government, because it feels like you sort of have 2 main forces for Dalteria. You have the tech cities and the magic cities. And
There's the two primary factions. There's much smaller ones. Are the Empire of the Forge and the Chosen or the Keepers. The Empire of the Forge is what's left of the Hephaestus military. That was the authority when the people who survived. The civilian population is mostly destroyed. They're regimented, a bit overly bureaucratic and bloated, and they try and keep a tight control on everyone. But it's not really a military anymore because there's no real countries to fight. The primary enemy is the thing that they're fighting mostly is the world that they're living on to try and keep it safe. And the people of Hephaestus and Dalteria have to work together or they can't survive. The people of Dalteria, it's more of a loose confederation. They have a bunch of small cities and states, and a bunch of small cities and towns. One very large city where the Keepers live. And the Keeper has power more because he controls the flow of magic. And losing your magic is a devastating thing in their culture. So when you have a representative of the Keepers in your town, while they're not the mayor, they're not the leader, a lot of times people go to them with disputes and questions and issues. It's not they're not officially in charge, but a lot of times they are.
Okay. Sounds kind of like the old judge system from the Old Testament.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Except there is, like, the Keeper is, he does rule Resolve, the primary magic city.
Okay.
But other than that, he doesn't have official authority. But yes, they go to them with questions. Like you said, yes, like the judges.
And you said that the source of magic is a crystal, and the way you phrased that kind of implied that there's more than one.
As far as is known on Dalteria and to the people in the system, there is only one crystal, and I haven't gone beyond that in the storytelling. There are other sources of magic. Like, it is the source of magic. That's not exactly true. You can create your own source of magic, but they're volatile and will not last very long. And then there's the other option, dragons. Dragons are one of the most powerful magical creatures, and they are effectively their own source of magic. Like, if the Keeper was physically present with a magical creature, it is possible he could take the magic away from them. Could not do that for a dragon.
Okay. This is a random question. What about unicorns? I feel like they're often portrayed as like a super magical species as well.
Unicorns are in the system. They are the... I want to create one creature of magic that is inexorably linked to each type of magic, with the exception being elemental, as elemental is more varied. But elemental unicorns are the creature of magic for healing. They are a powerful magical creature, but the dragons are the top of the heap.
Dragons, which one are they connected with?
So dragons are not connected to any specific magic type, though they're closer to elemental than anything else.
Yeah, I would have assumed, yeah.
My dragons are kind of interesting in that, a female dragon will lay an egg. A male dragon will come and give it a piece of its hoard. And depending on the piece of hoard given to it, the dragon will develop into a different creature. And a dragon's power is directly linked to how much it has in its hoard. And a hoard is made up of something that people value. It doesn't have to be a specific thing. And a different dragon may develop from, like, a dragon could leave a ring from his hoard, and his hoard is precious gems or jewelry. And this dragon could grow up to hoard pieces of art, because that is also a piece of art.
I mean, the way you describe it seems like they're almost a monster that's powered by sin, of like greed or envy or something.
They're creatures of avarice.
Yeah.
What's interesting is what happens if a dragon egg hatches and no treasure was given to it. They hatch into a worm. A worm is constantly trying to change into all of the different possible forms. They're incredibly dangerous, generally not long-lived. They're just creatures of rage and pain.
This is pretty cool. Like, it aligns pretty well with a lot of other dragon myths, but is a pretty neat, like, interpretation of what those different types of dragons are like. I like it. Trying to have some consistency and rules to stuff.
Also, a worm is a significantly weaker creature. Like, that is the level 1 boss, is a young worm. Whereas dragons don't start showing up to level 7.
Okay.
And that's the youngest, weakest of them.
So it seems like you had sort of an idea for what adventurers would be within this setting, where they're kind of going out into the wild to get some piece of lost technology, either magic or actual technology, and or something like that.
Lots of things left over from the war still. Yes.
Is that like a job that people get, like where they're working with a guild or something, or is it just like I need to earn some credits, so I'm going to go do this? Like, what's the conception there?
Yes, there's an adventurers guild across the planet. That's one of the ways that the tech and magic civilizations work together. Through the guild. The guild works independently of both, but with both societies. And the players are generally expected to be members of the adventurers guild. And yeah. Part of the thing is going out into the world and finding lost technologies or magics. Also, just ferrying people from one place to another, carrying messages back and forth, studying magical animals, creatures, going out and collecting useful bits of collecting creatures or useful bits of creatures. Like dryads are an interesting thing in my system. They're the result of a plant growing out of land that had been affected by healing magic. And you have a plant and a creature, so there's more of a hamadryad. But if you perform a service for them, you can take some of the fruit, and it has a magical effect. If you try and take it without it, they will attack you. And that's even more dangerous because often they're protected by fae, which are... one of the things in my system, in this world, is the only intelligent life on the planet are humans. Almost exclusively. There's a couple of exceptions. Magical creatures act often like they are intelligent, but it's more of an effect of the magic than actual intelligence. Their actual intelligence is usually that of like high-end animal intelligence.
Okay, so like a dog.
Yeah. But like I said, because they're affected by magic, sometimes they'll act almost as if they're more intelligent. And there are some exceptions to this. Spirits and Jinn. So one of the things is a lot of times I give names to creatures as if the people from Hephaestus named them based on things from stories and legends from Earth. And some of those are legitimate, like the unicorn or the dragon, mostly dragons. Mm-hmm. Some of them it's because they see this thing and they connect it to an idea from a legend or a myth. They're similar enough. Spirits aren't ghosts in this system. What a spirit is when psychic magic gets tied up with a memory or a repeated action. Ideas and memories can get twisted into the magic, and they repeat themselves or repeat patterns of actions. So they can appear to be intelligent. They can even talk or say things, but they're just repeating something that happened in the past.
That's more like a copy instead of an actual, like, soul.
Yeah, it's not, yeah. Now, Jinn are interesting in that that's what happens when a Chaos Mage tries to cast a spell way too powerful for them, and they end up burning themselves out. They can burn a temporary image of themselves into reality, and that image can infect something and give it power.
I'm sensing there's a very powerful Jinn on Hephaestus, then. Okay. This is cool. Like, there's a lot of neat rules for stuff. Like, it feels like someone could actually sort of research a monster to kind of figure more about what makes it tick and how to work and defeat it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try and give them each creature a bit of depth. They have a handful of traits, a handful of powers to try and make them interesting. Also, like a lot of times with the magic type creatures, I say, they know 2 of these 4 spells. And they can cast them a certain number of times per combat. So if you run into a pixie, it might be a completely different fight than the one you ran into like 5 minutes ago.
Because it would know the 2 other spells.
Right. And they work together in different combinations, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Fae are also interesting in that they can finish each other's spells. Fae are created as a twin creature, so like if it's a level 3, like Pixie is a level 3 creature, but you add 2 of them to a combat as one level 3 creature. And every Fae has this ability called Fae casting. When one Fae uses that, the next one to use that ability finishes the spell. Which can make it interesting mixing higher and lower ones, level ones together.
Okay.
Use that to make a combat a little harder or easier if you want.
Going back a little bit, how does someone join the guild?
In order to join the guild, you have to have a sponsor. You can sponsor yourself, like if you're from a wealthy family, you can maybe buy your way in. You can, like the Festus military, you can just start at the bottom and work your way up. Maybe if you're working at the farms are actually they're a very powerful group on Dalteria because it requires both tech and magic to keep them working properly and producing enough food for everyone. So they have a lot of influence. Maybe you're secretly being sponsored by someone who's in the cult of Nimrod, who's kind of trying to push you forward for their own ends. Or maybe the black market. But yeah, you get a sponsor. They get you started. If you're tech, they get you your basic gear. If you're magic, they talk to the right people and make sure that you're in the next. If you don't already have magic, that you're granted magic, or if you already have magic, they talk you up as someone who's capable of joining and being part of the guild. And a lot of times you'll go back to your sponsor when you want to level up to get access to the next level of equipment or spells.
Okay, so everyone in the guild has magic. There aren't any people that are just like, I only use technology.
Oh, no. You either are. You can be all magic, all tech. You can be a mix of the two, but you only get a little piece of each.
Okay.
But no, I guess I wasn't representing that correctly. Like, coming up through the military in the cities would be the primary way a person of tech would get in there. A person with advanced technology to get the training and the equipment that they need. The advanced technology is very closely guarded and carefully handed out because it's needed.
Right.
There are times when you need to put in a call to arms. There's a wave of magma titans heading towards the city. We need all hands on deck. They want to make sure you're reliable and that they can call on you if needed.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting with the original question of how you join the guild. Was they're not just letting like a plumber join. You need to have something.
Right. You either need to have potential or have shown that you're capable, or somebody, grease some palms. Members of the Adventurers Guild, as you get higher up in the guild, they are very prestigious positions.
Well, yeah, let's talk about character creation. I'm assuming that picking a sponsor is part of that, but how do you go about making a character within the actual game system?
Okay, so first you choose tech or magic, or a combination. Then if you chose magic, you get 3 points for type, 3 points for manifestation. The manifestation is how you cast your spells, whether you're casting it on your own body, through your own body, that's internal manifestation, whether you're channeling magic directly into something or someone, that's sympathetic magic, or whether you're just casting magic out into the world, projection magic. Choosing those gives you access to spells. Every spell has a type and a manifestation level. The more points you have in a certain manifestation, the more, the difference, you have access to different spells. For tech, you choose your AI installation. You have to have an AI in order to use magic on Dalteria. You have to have something observing reality to make it real enough that your tech works. You either have that AI installed in your head, you have it installed in a suit that you wear, or you have like a drone that follows you around. So with tech, you get upgrades. You can get a better battery, you can get a better shield, or you can get a better mobility system. And you choose where you want to focus on your equipment. Then instead of getting spells, you buy equipment. You buy weapons and gear.
Yeah. Yeah, that part I was assuming was how it worked for the tech side.
And one of the things that's interesting is I talk about higher level gear. You can't buy a weapon higher than level 1. If you want better gear, you have to buy upgrades and then go through the upgrade system to make the weapons that you want.
Okay.
So even two people who choose the same weapons at level 1, by level 10, they might have completely different loadouts, even though they have the same base equipment.
All right. So you said it was classless, and I mean it's almost like there's only two classes, like magic or tech, kind of. You can have both. So I see what you're getting at there. So most of what you're picking is gear if you're on the tech side, or spells if you're on the magic side, and then improving those as you get leveled up.
Right, and then there's also a list of abilities, and you have to, and those all come from the same pool. So at level 1, you get 5 ability points, and most abilities cost 2 ability points. Learning a spell or getting proficiency with a advanced piece of equipment or weapon costs you 1 ability point. Upgrading them costs 1 as well, and you get 3 ability points every time you level up.
Okay, so just a typical building point system. All right. So you mentioned abilities, and you got the gear and the spells. Is there something separate for like a skill system, or is everything sort of all kind of in the same boat for where you get access to stuff?
Skills. So when you start at level 1, you start off with 3 skills from the list of 13. And then you create 2 specialties. You take a skill and you make a more specialized version of it. Like you could take the skill strength, and then you say, my specialty is climbing. And then you get a +1 for each of those. So when you're using you're using your strength to try and do something, you get your +1 to that. If you're actually trying to climb something, you get a +2. And you can choose whatever specialties you want. You get 2 of those. The stats in the game are body, mind, and spirit. And each one of those has 2 magic types attached to it, and depending on what AI installation you have, you'll use one of those as your primary for making attacks.
So how does spirit translate into tech? I feel like it would mostly be mind or body for that.
That was a tricky one. The idea I came up with was, if you have an AI installed in your head, you actually have it wired into your brain. The stronger your willpower is, the stronger your sense of self, the more you can allow that AI to take control and take actions without losing yourself to it.
Oh, okay.
So the more spirit you have, the more effectively you can use it.
All right. That actually makes some sense. So people that are good at using AIs for like the dual version are also good at using magic.
If you choose both tech and magic, you get a limited access to both. You only can get 1 point in a manifestation, and you have 2 points in a type, and you can split those how you want. Like you could go 1 point in 2 different types if you want. It's generally not a good idea, but I have played around with building and then made a functional character that way. And then tech, you only get 2 upgrades. It's just that, and that just represents that, narratively, you have as many upgrades on your equipment as the guy who's just all tech. It's just your stuff isn't working quite as well because you're also using magic. And similarly, you have just as much magic power as the mage, but because you have the tech on you, it's not functioning as well.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. What is action resolution like for the game?
It's an action point-based system. At the start of each of your turns, you get 6 actions. You can use up to 3 of those actions for spells, powers, and items, and the rest for anything else. Like if you want to just move 6 times, you can just move 6 times. But if you want to cast a quick spell, which takes 1 action, you can only do that 3 times. When you make an attack, you figure out your base attack. For a spell, you take your points in type of the spell you're casting, and then the stat attached to it. Like say you're casting a psychic spell, and you got 3 points in type, and you have a 3 in mind. Yeah, mind. It would be a base attack of 6. Then the target decides how they're going to respond. You can just take the hit if you want. Generally a bad idea, but sometimes that's the right thing to do. Or you can choose to block or dodge, and you roll 3d12, and on 2 successes, if you declare which one you're doing first. 3 successes lets you dodge. For blocking, 1 success halves the damage, 2 successes halves the damage and stops effects. 3 successes completely stops the attack. To dodge, you have to be able to get out of the area of the attack in order for it to succeed.
Okay.
It's primarily a D12 system.
Have you you've done some testing with it?
Yeah, I've been doing playtests. And so my friends and some people online have gotten on my Discord. On my Roll20 that I've been running some playtests.
Oh, cool. And on the GM side of stuff, you talked about like having monsters and sort of like different affix you can put onto them to turn them into a different type of magic.
Or you can get a tech augment too, yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. What about the technology side?
Yeah, so the augments aren't just for enemies either. You can take one instead of a level. There's slightly different rules for players than for attaching the creatures, of course. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, there was those nanite factories that are dropped on the planet. Those are still upgrade, not just building creatures. They also will sometimes upgrade animals and creatures and even people. Although generally, when you take an tech augment yourself, that's something you like. That is an upgrade you paid for in a town and had added to yourself. But like, yeah, you could end up with a group of raptors attacking you that all have cybernetics, like an energy gun attached to them.
Laser velociraptors, love it. We can't go to that part of the ocean. There's laser sharks there.
Oh yeah, and that's another a little tool that I built for myself for creatures is the Chimera table, where it just has a list of 10 creatures on it. Each has stats attached to it. You pick 4 of those. You can pick the same one more than once if you want, and put those together. Choose some traits and powers from each one, and you've got a creature.
Oh, that's
just
cool.
To be able to fill things out. And robot is one of those, just so you can make a machine if you want.
Nice. Okay, so the monster system sounds like it's fairly simple compared to like D&D, but is very modular to still give you a really wide variety of monsters. Does that sound right?
There's a balance. I have enough of those to fill out all the edges, but I do have a list of just actually standard creatures that have a solid stat block. But like I said, you can attach an augment to most of them to change them up if you want to.
Okay, cool. And part of what the guild is doing is trying to sort of let's kill all the monsters in this area so we can have some people live there again. Is that one of their missions or no?
That clearing out an area so a new settlement could form would be one of the missions you would run, yes.
Okay.
Or trying to reclaim an old city that had fallen into a ruin. That actually leads me to one of the creatures that I came up with. One of the golems that I have in the game is a gargoyle. And what the gargoyles are in this world they were construction. They were there to actually build buildings. And then once the building was completed, several of them would remain to act as security and to keep it built up. But this means you could walk into an ancient ruin city and there's still like a tower that's just pristine standing in the middle of it. But that's the one you stay away from because the gargoyles are there unless you can figure out a way to get past them safely or defeat them.
That's cool.
And that's a bit of world building that came about because of just my design of the creature. Like, that wasn't an idea I had to be in the world until I started making this creature and trying to decide, how do I want to make a gargoyle into something that people made for utility?
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good... Like, it's still associated with a building in that way, just like they are in the real world. That's good. I guess you could have a tech version of it, too, if it's a robot gargoyle.
Mm-hmm.
Could you, like, walk me through... Like, I'm assuming that you haven't had, like, a full-on campaign yet, because you're still testing.
Yes.
Could you describe, like, a sample adventure so people can get an idea of, like, what Dalteria is like?
Okay. Yeah, I have the introductory adventure that's set up. I've actually run it a couple times and had a friend run it just to see how the game works. It's one of the things, getting somebody else to run it, is I will fill in gaps without thinking about it sometimes. So the characters are all in Kalis Crossing for one reason or another. They're the 4 heroes that are available, the 4 adventurers that are available, and they are called into the Adventurers Guild and given a mission saying that you need to take this cask to Thalia, and you need to get there by tomorrow. This is a rush. We've been asked to do this. Don't open it. It's been sealed. It's warded. We'll know. And you can't take the roads. You have to go cut across land to get there in time. The roads swing past the farms, so it would take too long to get there. And so you're sent out. Characters go out. I have them run a quick skill test that I make. You have to get through the basic ones, like they had to get two complete successes before they get 1 complete failure. And they track to get through the woods safely. If they fail, then when they get to the next encounter, the enemies will have a surprise round on them. If they succeed, then they might succeed, then they can get there safely. If they succeed really well, maybe they'll get the surprise round. And the first combat I have is between them and some what I call fodder enemies. They only have 2 hit points, and they take full damage. They lose both hit points if they take full damage from an attack. And it's some Drelv, which are some chimeras that I've made. They're coyote, owl chimera, and some robots that had taken them and become part of their pack. There's a collapsed wall of stone nearby that they can invest to find out, and they can find out the machines came from there, but they can't really get in there yet because it's blocked off. They fight those. That teaches them the basics of the combat. Like the Drelb have a special feature that they always go first in combat, so I can make sure that they get a feel for how the combat works. They can't just wipe out all the enemies before they get an action. They can learn block and dodge and such. Then after that, they travel some more. I have a road encounter where they meet up with some people who are traveling. They've got their own guards. They're trying to carry goods from one place to another. And depending on the party's skills, they'll either have animals pulling their carts, they'll have a vehicle, they'll have something that the party has a skill to work with because they're broken down and they need help. Either they can track down their lost animals, help heal them if they're hurt, maybe if they're good with animal handling, they can help with that. So depending on once another skill test, if they succeed, they get some information and a useful item. If they fail, as long as they try to help, they get some useful information. The information is, be careful of that cask. Very basic information. If they help out really well, they'll say, one of the guys say, I used to work for the black market. Those markings are black market. You're carrying something dangerous. And then the players could decide, do they keep this? Do they throw it away? Do they take it to town and turn it over to the guards? Do they take it to town and turn it over to the person they're supposed to turn it over to? Is probably giving it to the black market. And let them make that decision. Whatever they do, they get attacked by some mercenaries who are coming after them. The mercenaries are hired, depending on their decision on what to do with the cask, the mercenaries might be attacking them because they were hired by the black market. You threw away our thing, or you're planning to give it over to the guards. They might have been sent out by the Adventurers Guild, and the mercenaries are not doing their job correctly. They're supposed to just go there and bring them back, but they're attacking them and trying to take it from them if they were sent out from the Adventurers Guild. Players fight with them or try and talk them out of the fight, but at some point during the fight, whoever's carrying the cask is going to get attacked. And the cask is going to get damaged. That happens no matter what. Once the fight's over, however it's resolved, you let them know the cask is damaged. They look at it, it's empty. And there's a trail of some organic material in there and a trail leading away. And either they can continue going to town to try and explain what's going on, they can try and go back, they can search for the thing. Whatever happens, the next encounters, they get attacked by a worm. They actually have to fight this monster that's constantly shifting, changing its defenses constantly. Because it hatched with them, it's coming after them no matter where they go. Upon defeating this thing, either their decisions might put them in good with the black market if they were going to turn this thing over to the black market. The cask was being scryed on by someone, and people know what they were doing. Or if they were going to do the right thing, now they're in good with the Adventurers Guild. Even if they're good with the black market, the Adventurers Guild is going to give them a second chance because they defeated a worm. That's actually kind of a big deal. This thing, they were near a big city. If that thing had attacked, it could have been a problem. Part of the defense grid was down. And so the players end with a little bit of renown and some experience with the system, having dealt with some of the monsters, some of the tech, other people in the system. And now they've got a hook about what to do next. Because why did someone want a dragon egg? That's incredibly dangerous. Nobody should be getting that. They can go try and track that down. They can try and work with the black market. They've got, ways to go off in different directions from there.
Yeah, no, that's a cool start. I was thinking like, it's got to be a vampire if it's inside of a box, because that's where vampires live. But I guess that doesn't work with your mythology for the setting.
No vampires. Undead. There are undead, but they're little. I've only got 2 things so far, one for tech and one for magic. And actually, the head of the black market is a creep. They're a undead created by magic. The problem is, though, you can't bring the soul back with the body. You can animate a dead body with magic to make it act like it's living again. But if you get it soon enough and the brain's still intact, it'll still be as intelligent as it was in life. But there's no soul, no higher emotions, and no conscience. And while you can give it a basic instruction, it will follow that the rest of its existence, but that doesn't usually go well for you. And they have to continue consuming spirit energy to stay alive.
Yeah, I was thinking another way you could handle undead would be on the sort of technology side, like a cyborg that needs like blood to keep supporting its brain or something, all that's left of its original body.
The repurposer hive is what I have for that. It's a nanomachine colony that rebuilds a dead body using what's left there as additional material to create a weapon. They're particularly nasty. Like if one of those is in a place, you could go through a place, fight through, kill some monsters, then come back on the way out, they're back.
Okay. I think I've hit all the points that I wanted to. Did you want to say anything else about the system or the setting?
I think we've hit a lot of the main. I think we've hit most of the topics. I can't think of anything right now.
Okay. Well, I always finish off by asking if you have any advice for other DMs.
I don't know. Just keep in mind, like with the little adventure I had, fail forward. Always have a plan in mind for if they fail, how the story keeps going forward.
Yeah, I think that's some good advice.
I think that's about all I got right there.
All right, good enough. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I think we're all set. Thank you, John.
All right, thank you. Have me on.
I hope you enjoyed listening to John talk about his system and setting, Dalteria. If you'd like to support the show, please leave a 5-star review on your podcast app, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or tell a friend, tell your game store owner, tell everybody about the show, or subscribe on Patreon. Thank you for listening. This episode was sponsored by Darren.